There used to be a time when, that we didn't know how we came to start speaking the language Patois. It's a dialect, it's a cultural dialect. Um, but then universities started researching, what is it made out of? The grammar is actually comes from, West Africa. There's a mixture of different African words, in Patois. Like for instance, the word nyam comes from a Swahili word that means meat. So it's kind of like, you know, to deny Africa would be to deny who you are, because everything that we are, our language, our food, some of the foods that we eat are identical to foods in Ghana. Identical. Like they might have different names, but they're identical. So it's kind of like there's a little bit of erasure there because, being colonized, it seems like that part, there's a little bit of disconnect. And then, schools would teach, quote unquote, the Queen's English. But eventually it comes back, just like you said, it's kind of like a full circle. It comes back and you realize how connected we are, our language, our food, our dress, our music. Reggae, for instance, comes from Minto. Minto comes from West Africa, Minto music. So all of it is connected to Africa. It's just a matter of you knowing that it's connected. I'll tell you one funny story actually before we move on. The last time that I went to Jamaica, I went as an adult, and my mom brought me to a kind of a shop, a market area, and there was several different buildings in this kind of a market square. And she grew up going to this market for, to shop, etc., with her family. And there was a building with Adinkra symbols in the on the side, kind of on the roof, kind of like this. And there was Adinkra symbols on there. And that was something that I was very passionate about when I was in high school. And I used to start researching about Adinkra symbols. And I would always tell my mom about Adinkra symbols, and their meaning and their proverbs and the wisdom that comes from Adinkra symbols from Ghana. And she grew up going to this shop, not knowing that these writings that were on this building were Adinkra symbols. I went there as an adult and I showed her, Mom, wow, look at this. They have Adinkra symbols. And she was shocked because she grew up not knowing what they were. And I came as an adult, her daughter, and pointed it out to her. And she was amazed, So it's so interesting that a child that she born came back to a place, a village that she grew up going to, and kind of brought back this knowledge to her, and pointed it out to her. So it's just really interesting. It's very much full circle, I would say, and very significant. African heritage is very significant.
You see, like I was saying before, we're talking about memory. There is a project that I'm working on. It's actually about memory. Even though the entire project that I'm working on is about memory, but this specific one is more about how to build our memory. Okay, we can talk about our family as our immediate family, or our extended family, or as a group, as a tribe, as a people. As African in the diaspora, we are hundreds of millions of people. We are sort of lost, that we're not able to trace our origin and able to build on our memory. We believe that our history started from slavery, from colonialism. So we had nothing. We don't owe anything. We never did anything in the human history. This is what we were taught. This is because we lost the memory. And if you don't hold your memory, if you don't know where you are coming from, you are even at a danger to yourself. How can we build on this memory, African in the diaspora and also those at home, so that we can always tap into it to build something for ourselves?
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Without knowledge of our identity, we as a people will perish because that's the source. When you're not connected to a source, you die out, right? You could think of it even as electronics. After a while, if you don't charge your batteries, if you're not connected, you're gonna die out. That's the source of who we are. Um, I think that in order to connect, we have to weave it in to our everyday life. We can't just do it during February, doing Black History Month. That's what we do here in the West. There's Black History Month, and every February, people suddenly remember that they're Black and that they're African. That's not going to be enough. It's not sustainable. Um, Also, I find that now, I don't know if you notice behind me, there is this kinara. It's a Kwanzaa kinara, and it's a Pan-African holiday that comes after Christmas. And many African Americans have started celebrating it now since the 1960s, and it's becoming more and more popular here in Canada. And it's another way to connect to your roots. However, what I love about it is that the principles, there's 7 days of celebration, and those principles, you can bring it and carry it through the rest of the year. And so it's not just one time of the year that you connect with your heritage, right? But it's a community celebration, and everyone is involved, and that's something that is very important for us as a people, because we come from a collectivist type of society, and so we thrive in community. A lot of Western North American culture is individualistic, and so we tend to separate ourselves, and that's how we as a people, we don't thrive that way. We tend to be disconnected and disoriented when we don't work together as a community. So my answer would be to utilize things like Kwanzaa, to weave it into your everyday life. I would say that use even something simple like the food you eat to connect to your roots. Like, for instance, if you know that you always eat a certain type of yam, find out where it comes from. Where does it originate? Why did they eat it? Was it the climate at that time? Was it out of necessity? Find out, trace it, find out where it comes from. If you eat we eat something called chocho. I found out that chocho comes from so many different, countries in the Central America as well. So you start to realize how we traveled through different decades. If it originated here, how did it end up there? How did it end up on your plate? If you just take the time to just kind of think, okay, well, that means my ancestors traveled. They weren't stationary. They were nomads. They explored. There wasn't just one explorer. We always think of, one type of, colonialistic type of explorer. Our people explored long before slavery.